Shalom, welcome back to the Book of Enoch series. After the overwhelming vision of the Great Holy One coming forth in judgment, one Enoch does something surprisingly quiet. It tells us to look. Look at the heavens. Look at the earth. Look at winter and summer. Look at the trees, the sea, and the rivers. The command repeated through these chapters is simple. Contemplate and observe. That is where the indictment of humanity begins. Not with a complicated argument, but with attention. The text asks us to notice that creation carries out the work appointed to it. The heavenly lights rise and set. They do not abandon their paths. They appear according to their appointed order. The seasons arrive. Water covers the earth in winter. Clouds, dew, and rain rest upon it. Trees lose their leaves, then become green again. Summer brings heat. The sea and the rivers continue their courses. The ancient writer is not giving us a modern scientific account of the universe. He is showing us a moral vision of creation. The world is pictured as a vast order of faithfulness. Everything has a place, a time, a boundary, and a work. And against that background, humanity is examined. This is what makes these chapters so powerful. Human wrongdoing is not presented merely as breaking an isolated rule. It is presented as falling out of harmony with the order that surrounds us. The stars keep their appointed path, but the human heart turns aside. The seasons fulfill their work, but human beings resist the work entrusted to them. The rivers move according to their course, but human desire refuses every boundary. Creation becomes a witness. There is something profound in the repeated invitation to contemplate. Usually, when people become spiritually anxious, they want more information. They want a hidden answer, a dramatic sign, or a secret that will make uncertainty disappear. But one Enoch begins its wisdom by teaching us how to look at what is already before us. Attention itself becomes a spiritual discipline. A distracted person can live inside a world of signs and see nothing. A proud person can study sacred things and remain unable to learn. But contemplation slows the heart enough to receive instruction from what God has made. The heavens do not speak with human words here, yet their steadiness becomes a teaching. Their order says that faithfulness is possible. Their appointed times say that delay is not abandonment. Their repeated courses say that constancy does not need applause. The sun does not rise because someone congratulates it. The river does not flow because people understand it. Creation carries out its work before God. That exposes one of our deepest temptations. We often want faithfulness to be witnessed, rewarded, and understood immediately. We may do what is right for a while, but when recognition does not come, resentment begins to grow. Then obedience quietly becomes negotiation. We say, perhaps without words, I will remain faithful if life proves that faithfulness benefits me. But the order of creation offers another way. Faithfulness is not first a strategy for controlling outcomes. It is a way of belonging to truth. The text then turns to the earth and its seasons. Winter fills the land with water. Trees appear stripped and withered. Their leaves are gone. Yet this is not described as rebellion. That distinction is spiritually important. Not everything that looks barren is unfaithful. A tree without leaves may still be standing perfectly within its appointed season. A field may appear empty while hidden preparation is taking place beneath the surface. A person may pass through silence, grief, obscurity, or exhaustion without having abandoned God. We often judge life by visible fruit alone. If something is flourishing, we call it blessed. If something is bare, we assume that it has failed. But one Enoch asks us to observe more carefully. Winter has its own obedience. The text even notices that 14 trees retain their old leaves until new growth comes. So creation does not express faithfulness in only one form. Some trees become bare. Some retain what they carried before. Yet each remains within the wisdom of its nature. That can free us from comparing our spiritual season with someone else's. One person may be in a season of visible growth. Another may be releasing what can no longer remain. Another may be quietly preserving life until renewal comes. Faithfulness does not always look the same from the outside. The question is not whether your life resembles another person's tree. The question is whether you are remaining true within the season entrusted to you. Then summer comes. The sun burns. The earth becomes hot. And people seek shelter and shade. Even here, the text does not confuse divine order with human comfort. The appointed order includes heat. It includes conditions that make us seek refuge. This matters because we sometimes imagine that if life is aligned with God, It should always feel gentle. But discomfort is not automatically disorder. Some seasons reveal our limits. Heat teaches us that we are not self-sufficient. It sends us toward shade. It reminds the body that it needs shelter. The spiritual question is not simply, how do I escape every difficult condition? It is also, what is this condition teaching me to seek? The trees become green again, and their fruit appears. The cycle continues. The one who lives through all the ages made these works, and they carry out their work year after year. Then the text gives special attention to the sea and the rivers. They carry out their works and do not alter what has been spoken for them. Water is powerful, but in this vision, its power is not lawless. It moves within an order. Human power becomes destructive when it refuses the same truth. Intelligence without moral boundary becomes manipulation. Desire without boundary becomes consumption. Speech without boundary becomes violence. Authority without boundary becomes oppression. The problem is not that human beings possess strength. The problem is strength separated from appointed purpose. And now the indictment becomes direct. The text says that humanity has not stood firm. Human beings have not acted according to God's commandments. They have turned aside. They have spoken proud and hard words with an unclean mouth against divine majesty. Notice the movement. Not standing firm, turning aside, speaking proudly, becoming hard of heart. Spiritual collapse usually has a direction before it has a public result. First, the inner stance becomes unstable. Then the path bends. Then the mouth begins to defend the bending. Finally, the heart becomes too hard to receive correction. Pride is not merely thinking highly of oneself. Pride is the refusal to be measured by anything higher than oneself. A proud heart does not simply make mistakes. It creates explanations that protect the mistake. It turns correction into insult. It treats humility as weakness. It uses speech to make rebellion sound justified. That is why the text pays attention to hard words and an unclean mouth. Words reveal what the heart has chosen to serve. A mouth can speak about God while resisting God's order. A person can use sacred language to protect resentment, cruelty, or self-importance. Religious vocabulary does not purify speech if the heart is using it to avoid truth. The verdict is severe. There will be no peace for the hard-hearted. This does not mean that God arbitrarily withholds calm from someone who made one error. It means that peace cannot be built from sustained resistance to truth. Peace is more than the absence of conflict. It is wholeness. It is the state in which the inner life, the spoken word, and the outward deed are no longer fighting against one another. A person may possess comfort and still have no peace. A person may silence every critique and still have no peace. A person may win every argument and still be divided within. When the heart turns aside and then hardens itself against correction, unrest is already present inside the victory. But the verdict is not only a curse, it also opens into promise. The contrast between curse and blessing is not a contrast between two arbitrary moods in heaven. It is the unveiling of where two paths lead. A life built on pride eventually becomes its own accusation. The person leaves behind a name associated with destruction because the pattern of that life has exposed itself. But righteousness opens toward mercy because righteousness is willing to return, receive correction, and live within truth. The chosen, then, are not a spiritual elite who possesses secret information while everyone else is beneath them. They are recognized by the direction of their life. They choose what is right when pride offers a quicker reward. They remain teachable when hardness would feel safer. They seek peace without pretending that evil is harmless. This is why forgiveness appears beside light and wisdom. Forgiveness is not permission to continue turning aside. It is the opening through which a person can return to the path. Mercy restores movement. Light makes the path visible. Wisdom teaches the feet how to remain upon it, even when the road narrows. For the righteous chosen, there is forgiveness, mercy, peace, and clemency. There is salvation and good light. They will inherit the earth. There will be light, joy, and peace. Wisdom will be given to them. This is very important. The answer to a world out of order is not that the righteous permanently escape creation. They inherit the earth. The earth that witnessed human rebellion becomes the place where righteousness is established. Salvation is pictured not only as removal from evil, but as restored belonging within God's creation. And wisdom is part of that restoration. In 1 Enoch Wisdom is not merely access to unusual mysteries. These chapters define wisdom morally. The enlightened person has light. The wise person has understanding. The chosen no longer live through godlessness and pride. Their lives grow in peace, joy, and enduring wholeness. So, the clearest evidence of wisdom is not how many secrets a person can discuss. It is whether pride is losing its power. It is whether speech is becoming cleaner. It is whether the heart can be corrected. It is whether a person can remain faithful without needing to control the season. Creation obeys without becoming less beautiful. The river keeps its course without losing its power. The tree accepts winter without losing its future. The sun keeps its appointed path without becoming insignificant. And human freedom reaches its dignity when it freely returns to alignment. These chapters, therefore, ask us to contemplate two worlds at once: the ordered world around us and the inward world within us. Where have I remained steady? Where have I turned aside? What proud explanation have I used to protect what I know is untrue? What season have I wrongly called failure simply because its fruit is hidden? What boundary have I treated as an enemy, even though it was given to preserve life? And what would it mean today to return to my appointed work with a softer heart? The judgment of 1 Enoch 2 through 5 is not meant to make us despise humanity. It is meant to awaken humanity. The heavens keep their courses. The seasons complete their work. The trees wait, release, endure, and blossom. The waters move within their boundaries. And the human being is invited to become faithful consciously, lovingly, and freely. That is our danger, but it is also our glory. We can turn aside and we can return. If these teachings have genuinely supported your path, and you would like to help me continue keeping them freely available, you can support this work through the Coffee link in the description. Your support helps with the time, study, equipment, and production behind these teachings. Whether or not you are able to contribute financially, thank you for being here and for receiving these teachings with an open heart. Shalom.